Today we're here to launch this second report. And first of all, I'd like to give our deep gratitude to the Botin Foundation in making this at all possible, because it has consequences far beyond the boundaries of this room and far beyond the boundaries of our own lives. We're talking about a future, or the future. And in a way that's intangible. We don't know what the real effects would be. But we're already beginning to see that the work we have done over the last 5 years and the report we produced 3 years ago is resounding in the world. There are words there that inspire people to do better, to be feeling that they have colleagues with them. And at the beginning of the report, we quote a well-known politician, playwright, Václav Havel. And I'd just like to read those few words again to you. They're at the beginning, but they're very important because they also encapsulate what we've heard already this morning. The salvation of this human world lies nowhere else than in the human heart, in the human power to reflect, in human meekness and human responsibility. Now, what might seem quite strange in those 4 attributes he puts at the end is the one, human meekness. But that's actually as important as the power of the heart, the power to reflect, and our sense of responsibility for our children and future generations. That we have to accept that we don't know the answers, but we always have to ask questions. We will never know all the answers. We have to have a sense of humility, the word you used, that we are searching, we're seeking, we're on a path, but it's not the only path, and we won't get to the end of it. And as we travel this path, the vista, the landscape, the environment, the context, the sky, it changes. It's a different place. We come to a different place, both inwardly and outwardly. But we always have to ask the questions, where am I? And who am I with? And where are we going? These are questions that stay. And as soon as we find an answer and say, that's it, I know, then we lose something of our humanity. We are no longer humane. And that stands essentially at the core of the work we've been doing as a platform. That thought that there will always be questions and there will always be different answers. If you'd asked a nuclear scientist 20 years ago, what was the world of nuclear science? You get a very different response than you would today. If you'd ask about neurobiology 20 years ago, it was in its infancy. And now there's so much that we begin to understand about the way our mind and our brain works. Not known. So there are different answers. But the ethics is in asking the questions. And that's what Václav Havel is pointing in here. We often look into the world of nature around us and we see, yes, there's evolution, there's change. Birds learn to sing differently in the context of a city. Butterflies changed the patterns on their wings so they fit in more with the environment. With climate change, certain species are moving more to the north every year. But we forget, we evolve too. We are not the same people as the people of the past. We are in a process of evolution. And our children are part of that evolutionary process too. The children of today are not the children of yesterday. The children of tomorrow are not the children of today. We're in a constant passage, a constant path. And that's why it's so important that we keep our open-mindedness and look at the challenges that confront us and look at them honestly and realistically and even be able to say, I don't know. I don't know the answer, but I'll look for it. I'll try and find it. And out of that process, we learn and grow. That passage from Václav Havel is there's 2 sentences, but the other one was too long to put on. And why Václav Havel? Because he learnt out of experience. And I think that's very important to understand our times. We live in the modern age, but the early modern age started in 15th century Florence. And one of the great progenitors of our way of thinking was Leonardo da Vinci, who was able to encapsulate at that time all important human knowledge in himself. We can't do that anymore, of course, but he still could. And what did he call himself? He said, I am a disciple of experience. That was what was new. The ages before, they were disciples of authority, words that came down from people who knew, wise men and women who had written about life and philosophy and medicine and geography and history, coming from the Greeks and the Romans. Yes, this was an authority. You believed it, even if the world outside was different and wasn't the same. You believed those words because they came from a significant source, a wise source. But in the modern age, the early modern age, comes new questions. And it doesn't match. The words of authority of Aristotle don't fit the reality of the world. So which way do you turn? And Leonardo said, experience. And where does experience lead us to? Experiment. And that's our modern analytical thinking. Experience and experiment. And then Havel has the second sentence, which I'll read to you. Without a global revolution in the sphere of human consciousness, nothing will change for the better in the sphere of our being as humans. And the catastrophe toward which this world is headed, be it ecological, social, demographic, or a general breakdown of civilization, will be unavoidable. We have to change our consciousness, our awareness, our perception of the world. And what do we need to do that? Each other. That's what we need. We need each other. We need the questions that others ask us, not just our own questions, but the questions that come from all over the world, from all cultures, all backgrounds, all philosophies, all experience. To be human, we need human variety. We're not just human alone. And we need each other. And on those concepts, we've tried to create this platform, where we as colleagues, you've seen a row of them this morning, where we come together and ask each other questions. Not just questions of academic credibility, not just questions of research, but who are you? Why are you here? How did you get here? So what we've done with our work, we've brought our biographies with us, our experiences, our researches, our insight, our temperament, our way of behavior, our culture, our nationality, our language, all very different. And we meet together for a first time and look at each other and think, who are you? And within very short time, there's a sense of joy, a mood of, this is new, this is something different. We can work together and bring something into the world that wasn't there before by that social interaction, that intellectual, social and emotional interaction. We can bring something new into the world. And when anybody does that, whether it's a child in a school, a teacher in a classroom, a good teacher works as a liberator, a bad teacher works as a prison. But a good teacher can feel that, and the child feels that sense of liberation. There's something new here. There's something beyond my limitations, which I can walk into. I can take risks. I can be different. I can find out more. And that brings this sense that we've experienced, again, thanks to the open-mindedness of the Botin Foundation, that sense of joyousness. Yes, we have doubts and problems and paranoia and alienation, just like everyone else. Yes, we're modern human beings. But that togetherness, for that moment, you feel encouraged. And it's that encouragement we want to bring to the world. Our first report, and this report says, there are no answers that are the same for everybody. There are many different paths, but in understanding the different paths and learning from those experiences, we can find our own path. We can see, we can learn from others, not imitate. No standardization. Children are not standardized. They're not one child. And this is how we have to view the children in the modern world. In the past, there was the Lockean child, the blank slate, the child you put information in and then took it out as a useful citizen. Or there was the Rousseauian child, the romantic child, the child of golden innocence. And what did society do? Chain them up in a way of behavior and mores and conventional, and they lost their freedom and their golden radiance. And you've got the child of Piaget, the biological child, step by step by step, how they evolve. What is the child today? And the child today is a co-creator. The child of today is come comes to us and works with us in creating the world. They're not down there who we teach, they relate. And in that relationship lies our creativity. And if I could just come back to Einstein, which you mentioned earlier. He said his achievements were about finding that childlike quality in himself. And he lists them. I just read that little list he made. How to reinvent childhood in yourself. The zest for life. A sense of discovery. A sense of wonder. Hope for the future. Spontaneousness. Openness and no preconceived conclusions. I read them again. The zest for life. The sense of discovery. A sense of wonder. Hope for the future. Spontaneousness, openness with no preconceived conclusions. And that's what we've been trying to do. In our discussions, in our work together, in our coffee breaks, in our meals, in everything we've been given that opportunity to interact with each other. That's what we've been trying to do. And in finding the childlike qualities in ourselves, then there's hope. There's so much to be dismal about in this world. It's unjust, it's unfair, there's suffering. There's deep suffering, which as human beings we could resolve if we were using our resources in the right way. There's loneliness. Yes, I won't go through the list. You all know them. You've all experienced them. But by finding this way, it gives just that little grain of hope. And it gives the grain of hope not just to us. We've noticed in the travels, a teacher struggling in Brazil, for instance, who's alone in a school trying to be creative and create an art lesson. Just the fact that that is acknowledged. Somebody comes and says, I'm interested in what you're doing. That changes the whole stature of the inner person. Somebody is interested in what I'm doing. So our work is a work of interest, not of answers, asking questions and finding interest. So I'd just like to finish. This is a little poem by Rabindranath Tagore. And I think, again, this is what the mood that we've managed to capture. Maybe just for a few fleeting moments in our work together, and we'll lose it again, and you have to refine it again. As I said, that's how we evolve. It's a very simple little poem, but I think it is very apposite to this occasion. I slept, and I dreamt that life was joy. And then I woke up and realized that life was duty. And then I went to work, and lo and behold, I discovered that duty can be joy. We have a duty to our children. We have a duty to the next generation. We can't even imagine. And yet that duty can be a joy, not a weight, not a burden. That's what children give to us. Look at their faces, look at their gestures, look at their play, look at their capacities. That's what they give to us. It's not us just giving to them. It's reciprocal. And in that joyousness, we can find those qualities that Einstein suggested. So I've been asked to finish with my proposal, because we're going to adopt a sequence of proposals today, and we're taking on to try and make them not just proposals, but realities all over the world. And I'll just read out what I wrote for this one. Social and emotional education that is approached in an age-appropriate, integrative, and creative way should be at the heart of educational practice for all children in all schools. To achieve this, initial teacher training will have to be realigned and become more creative. School communities will need greater autonomy in order to find their own path. And practicing teachers be given more opportunities for self-development and support in improving their professional skills, so as to empower them to be more innovative and respond sensitively to the needs of today's children. Thank you very much.